There are many things in life that bring me happiness, like chocolate, GQ magazine, and bubble baths by candlelight. But John Still would have to be number one. Johnny Boy is a free spirit, creative thinking, Kesha loving, Beyonce following, squash playing, funny, smart, dependable, and a downright genuine person who never shies away from a challenge. Last year, he was my beacon of hope in the midst of a rough junior year because he always knew what to say and just when to say it. He is the reason I believe in destiny. I never imagined in a million years that we would turn out to be such great friends. I love trash TV. He watches the History Channel. I would never research Winston Churchill for my senior project. He was so excited to write about him. But regardless of our differences, I know that I have truly been blessed to have him in my life. And even though we are several miles apart, I know I can count on him to bring me happiness, even if it's through a YouTube video dubbed Let Me Swing It. So please welcome my better half, John Still.
Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, Indira, for your wonderful introduction. I would also like to take this time to thank Sloan Snyder and all of the members of Co-Counseling who helped me through my senior year. And I would also like to thank all of those who made it possible for me to be here today, especially Mrs. Laparambara, Mrs. Portlock, and Mrs. Aldridge. I would also like to say before I begin that I will be here all day today and tomorrow in the music practice rooms if anyone would like to come and talk to me about my speech. Some of you may know me as a quiet, nerdy kid who still did his homework second semester senior year. Some of you may just know me as that lanky guy who wore Merrells for nearly the entirety of his upper school career. And a select few of you may even know me as that connoisseur of music who enjoys belting all the best Destiny's Child songs, all day, every day. But very few of you know one thing about me. I am gay. I have known since early my freshman year of high school, but for three main reasons, chose to hide this part of myself from this community, my friends, and my family, until the winter break of my senior year. And today, I would like to share those reasons with all of you, in the hopes that we can work together as a community to help others during their times of questioning. The first reason was the reaction that a lot of students had to the lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and questioning, LGBTQ for short, community and its advocates. Most of the comments that I overheard were jokes, or at least meant to be jokes, but I changed my life significantly because of them. One time, I was in the lounge, and some people were watching a new Lady Gaga video. Someone else walked in, asked what they were looking at, heard it was Gaga, and then rolled their eyes and walked out. I didn't let myself listen to any of her music for the next 2 weeks. I'm sure it wasn't meant to be malicious, and the people watching the video just laughed it off. But just because the person that you say or do something like that to says that it's okay, doesn't mean that it didn't hurt anybody. Another time, after Jamie Marx's chapel speech, the PRISM members, myself included, were handing out information cards. Later that day, someone came up to me and asked me if I was in PRISM. I told him, yeah, I was. To which he only responded, gay. When I was still at EA, I was constantly looking at how everyone was treating the openly gay community. And I was quite frankly terrified to say that I was in a gay-straight alliance, let alone to tell people that I was gay. The benefits of coming out outweighed the risks for some people, but they didn't for me. And I would ask that all of you do your best to minimize the number of these types of comments so that more people here could feel comfortable about being open with their sexuality. The second reason is fear. Would guys be uncomfortable hanging out with me after I told them? Would people look at me differently in the hallway? Would I think that people were looking at me differently? What would teachers think? This fear consumed a lot of my energy throughout high school and led me to cripple myself socially so that nobody would assume that I was gay. I didn't go to dances, stayed quiet in most of my classes, and kept myself at an emotional distance, even from my closest friends, so that nobody would find out that I was gay, which inevitably meant that I was not telling just anyone that my body too bootylicious, wrong you say. We all may think of that as funny, but when you spend most of your energy deciding what the quote-unquote right thing to say or do is in one situation, and what is not in another, it can change you. I myself have had multiple identity crises, even after I came out, which often led me to hyper-analyze every one of my actions. If I get a Diet Coke instead of a regular Coke, does that mean that I'm watching my diet too strictly for a straight guy? Or does getting a Coke mean that I'm suppressing my homosexuality by trying to be overly masculine? These questions, which do not even enter the mind of the average teenager, dominated my life. My preoccupation with them made the friendships with the people that I had not told extremely superficial, because how could I feel that I have a real connection with someone if they do not know such a large part of what goes on in my head? Fear has always been difficult for me to deal with, because all teenagers are naturally afraid of rejection, and I am still struggling with it today. But I would like to say that all the people that I have told have been extremely mature about it, and my relationships with these people have only strengthened. And today, I'm able to start focusing on forming friendships instead of on stressing how strangers view me. The third reason is that for most of my high school career, I was not entirely comfortable with the idea of being gay. Growing up in American culture, heterosexual men were always the norm. They were the leading characters in most kids' movies. There were never any gay couples on any kids' shows, with the possible exception of Bert and Ernie. But Snuffleupagus always scared me, so I didn't watch Sesame Street. Even as I came into adolescence, gay men and women in movies and TV shows were often caricatured. Examples that come to my mind include the lesbian at the meatpacking plant in Boondock Saints and Jack from Will and Grace. There were very few men that I identified with, and I felt, if anything, I acted more like the straight men than the gay men. So I assumed my homosexuality was just a phase that I would grow out of. What I hadn't realized at the time is that someone's sexual orientation is completely independent of the way that they behave. There are straight men who act flamboyant and are not gay, and there are gay men who act manly who are not straight. Having to hide my sexuality throughout such a formative 4 years of my life left me emotionally and socially stunted. When I started college, I had no experience of interacting with new people and not trying to focus on hiding my sexuality. I spent the weeks before orientation obsessing over how to present the new me. We always hear about how college is this time to reinvent yourself. But I had nothing to reinvent myself from. I had no idea what I liked about myself and what I didn't, except for the fact that I knew I didn't want to keep hiding my sexuality. But that left open all of these new questions. Do I keep acting the way that I did in high school? Or do I try to change myself to more fit the norm of a gay guy? Will I make any guy friends if I'm too flamboyant? How much time should I spend with someone before I tell them? How do I tell the people I decide to tell? Should I mention it in passing, or do I have to have sit-down discussions with everyone? Adding all of these questions to the fact that I would be spending the next 4 years of my life with these people made the whole ordeal extremely stressful. But, obviously, I made it through, though there were some horribly awkward moments, and I am definitely still in the process of learning how to deal with some of these questions. I still have trouble forming friendships with other gay guys, and sometimes I still feel uncomfortable acting like myself around strangers, which has cut at my confidence when meeting new people. But the biggest effect that this had on me was that I started college with almost no experience of interacting with people that I liked. I never had to get the courage up to ask a crush to a dance, or worry about what I was going to wear on my first date, because I never had one. These are highly emotionally charged experiences that people often remember for the rest of their lives. And I had never had any, which was particularly depressing because everyone else around me seemed to be enjoying them effortlessly. And every teen movie ever made into existence ever had taught me that they were expected for someone my age. Given all of this, it was very difficult for me to feel confident when I started college. But one thing in particular has helped me immensely, and that is being on the college squash team. For the first couple of weeks, I had absolutely no idea how to tell people, or what kind of response they would have. But I was terrified of the idea of starting the season without them knowing. But gradually, I started to tell the people I was most comfortable with. And now everyone on both the men's and women's team know I'm gay, and some of them are my closest friends. To all people here who are struggling getting the confidence to tell people about your sexuality, I would really suggest that you get involved in some type of communal activity. For me, that was being on a squash team, but it can be being on a debate team, or in a play, or volunteering. It's a great way to spend a lot of time with lots of different types of people in a much more informal setting than school. And it is very likely that by the end of the season, or play, or event, that there will be at least one person there that you could feel comfortable telling. It is very hard to be happy in an environment where you are the only person who knows such a large part of your identity. Even just having one or two friends who know can make such a huge difference in your mood and self-esteem. I know because I completely isolated myself for 3.5 years, and it only made me miserable. And now, after I've started telling people, I'm a much happier person who's more fun to be around. I consider my story, as a whole, a positive one. I made it through high school without being severely scarred, became comfortable with my sexuality at the relatively young age of 17, and with the help of my family and friends, was able to regain enough confidence to become a happy and socially active person by the time I got to college. But I know that there are many people who have not been so lucky. As you may have heard, this year, there has been a spike in suicides among LGBTQ youth. Among them being Tyler Clementi, a freshman at New Jersey's Rutgers University, who committed suicide after his roommate put footage of him hooking up with another man online. Often, when a devastating event like this happens, people try to dismiss it as not something that could happen to our community. This is, quite frankly, a very dangerous view to have. I was fortunate and had an incredibly supportive family who helped me through my process of coming out and has never made me feel more loved than I am now. But that is not the case for all people at EA. A couple years ago, one of my friends mentioned to me in passing that one time his dad had told him if he ever turned out to be gay, that he would kick him out of the house. I can only hope that he was joking. As a community, we cannot defer the responsibility of acceptance and support to people's families and friends, or we risk not only the alienation of someone here, but possibly their death. To all people who are struggling with their sexuality, I hope that you can learn to have hope in yourself and the future. If this is anything that you are struggling with, watch some of the videos from the It Gets Better movement on YouTube. There are hundreds of videos of adults of all ages, sexual orientations, races, and genders who have had bad experiences in their teens and adulthood, who are now proud and confident members or advocates of the LGBTQ community. If you have not heard of the movement, I urge you to look it up. It is a true embodiment of a program built upon hope and love. For all people here who are confident and secure in your sexuality, I hope that you can be aware of the fact that not everyone here at EA is, and that you can be sensitive to the needs of these people who are going through a difficult period of their lives and support them. In order for this to happen, we must all do our best not to make jokes about people's sexualities or homosexuality in general. It took years' worth of experiences with my closest friends for me to feel comfortable enough telling them that I was gay. And there were people that I didn't tell because of one or two comments they had made in my entire time knowing them. As you all hopefully know, this year, the Day of Silence is April 15th, next Friday. Some of you may have been here the past 2 years to witness it on the EA campus. Some of you may not have. I would just like to remind everyone what that day is about. Contrary to popular belief, the goal of the day is not to get out of participating in your language class. It's about bringing to the attention of our community all of the voices that are not heard on a daily basis because of issues dealing with sexual orientation. It's about the friendships that aren't formed because someone isn't comfortable with themselves. But most importantly, it's about the lives of people like Tyler that the world never gets to see lived out because they didn't feel accepted in their communities and had no hope that their world could change. As I have said, I consider my story, overall, a success story. But that is not to say that my time here at EA was not a very dark and damaging period of my life, because it was. I lived in constant fear of people finding out I was gay before I was ready to tell them. I rarely talked when I was not around my friends, and especially my junior and the first half of my senior year, went through some periods of serious depression and self-loathing. But worst of all, I almost never chose to spend time with other EA students when I didn't have to, because I didn't want anyone here to get to know me too well. I have been told that this year's chapel theme is faith, hope, and love. I have been told countless times that this school's motto is to be rather than to seem to be. I am telling you that EA was not able to embody these for me, but I hope that we can work together so that it can for all of you. Thank you.